What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Boardroom Podcast, where we help you stay calm, change lives, and have business on your terms. Now, I'm here with my man, Andrew, and me and Andrew, we got to share a really good laugh before we started, because the notes that I had for Andrew was talking about HVAC, and that has nothing to do with Andrew. He's very similar to me in the sense that despite what my exterior looks like, I am allergic to manual labor. So
I'm allergic to stuff I suck at. So,
and he's not very good with cars and has nothing to do with HVAC. So
that's right. That's right.
You said you guys do family office for small businesses and entrepreneurs and things like that.
Yep. Our target is founders that are faith-forward, purpose-driven, and legacy-committed, and we turnkey basically every aspect of their personal and professional finances. That includes hiring the subject matter experts. So the piece of that is identifying them, interviewing them, vetting them, hiring them, coordinating them, so that basically the founder spends 20 hours or less on all their personal and professional financial decisions and execution. So the reason that that's important, Iggy, is we found that founders who I think are the rock bed of what the U.S. and entrepreneurship and all is all about, right? They're great at making money, but what they're even more exceptional is losing money unknowingly and unnecessarily, because their solve for everything is what they're good at. Just go make more money and deliver more value. And I think the part that's sad about that to me, or where my passion is in serving them, is I use the analogy probably too much, but it's kind of like the drill at Home Depot. We don't go buy the drill at Home Depot in a really fancy toolkit so we can take that around at our, at Halloween or the Christmas parties to show all our friends our cool drill. We want the drill because the drill gives us a hole that we're going to do something else with. We start the business because people want freedom. They want to do what they want, when they want, how they want, with who they want. And instead, I see so many business owners focused on driving top-line revenue because that's their solution to solving their financial inefficiency or the area that they're not great at. And so we love to come in, man, and just serve them right there, give them, as we say, a cash flow rebate, so they don't tip the IRS or other folks. And then that gives them an opportunity to have more freedom and to deploy those dollars to make a greater impact. So
awesome. So how'd you even get into that? What's your background?
The essence is I grew up with a father who was a very highly successful general surgeon. I was actually there recently this weekend and reminded of why we built the family office. My dad was not around a lot growing up. And it was because he was so busy doing what he knew best, given where he was and what he knew to do at life. Because I think, Iggy, we got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Nobody shows up and you're a crappy father or mother or business owner. I think most people are doing the best they can with what they have, where they are, and what they know at that point. The difference is it's progress over perfection. So to put it in a nutshell for you, I watched my father, who was a very good at business and those things, but he self-managed all that. And so as a result, he was always worried about trusting other people. Why? Because he's working in an area that he's just, you say you don't do manual labor. Frankly, what was happening is what we call unearned or transferred confidence. If your life's on the line in the operating room, I'd want my dad doing the surgery, right? If your finances are on the line, there are certainly worse people, but I wouldn't want my dad doing the financial operating, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for you decided to kind of go from cutting people up to looking at numbers and spreadsheets. Those are pretty, very different worlds. So,
what I would say is we actually don't spend most of our time looking at numbers and spreadsheets. Is a founder's most trusted advisor. What we're actually doing is integrating and understanding what the highest values and priorities are for that founder, because finance is actually very simple. And in the finance industry, Iggy, makes it complex and overly difficult. Why? Because if they can create an overwhelming sense of complexity, then you give up and you lose control. So we tell our clients,
and you give them control over your stuff, right?
Yeah. So people give up because there's a war for your time, your attention, and your finances, right? But somebody who is good at what they do, they can add humor around it. They can simplify it where it's easy for you to understand. So the game of finance is actually very simple. It's all the money we're ever going to earn will equal what you're spending today and what you'll spend tomorrow. If you spend more today, then you'll eat cat food in the future. If you save for this perfect future, but you're not guaranteed tomorrow because you drop dead of a heart attack, then you sacrifice for nothing. So we want to put it in balance so we can live today as well as tomorrow. I mean, that's what really life is about, is living every moment and every day. And a piece of that is not worrying about the finances or the stress that go with that for people.
Yeah. So when did you start working with founders? What was your career before you made that shift to working with founders? What were you doing?
My first job out of college was actually working for IBM. I left there after I did about a $3 million sales deal that I got paid $5,000 on. And yeah.
So you did a $3 million sales deal and your commission was $5,000.
That's what you get for working for corporate America, my man. Yeah.
Wow. That is sickening.
Yep. So, I won't run too far down that rabbit trail, but basically I went in to talk to my manager and I said, hey, something's wrong here. And he said, no, there's nothing wrong. And I go, well, yeah, there's something wrong here. And I'm giving you 2 weeks to either give me a promotion or fix the compensation or whatever. And he's like, you'll be all right. So 2 weeks and about 4 hours later, I walked in, knocked on the side of his cubicle. And I said, hey, listen, I need to talk to you. I lied to you. And he goes, come on in. I'm sure we can make it right. And he goes, what is it? And I said, I told you I'd give you 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks and 4 hours. Here's the keys to my desk. I'm walking out the door. He's like, whoa, wait a second. What are you doing? I said, I told you I was giving you 2 weeks to make it right, or I was walking. That was at a time back in early 2000s, Iggy, where, people were like, you're crazy. But I've run into some awesome human beings that I work with there, at a place called US Cafe here in Atlanta. And I'd say, hey, Bob, how you doing? And Bob would go, well, you know the drill. And, I'd have to say, Bob, honestly, I don't know that drill anymore. Thank God I don't, So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So now going from IBM, what led you to building a business that's around family office? Like how we bridge that gap? Where that transition come from?
I think so often life is about the journey. It's not about the destination. And so it's a sum of, I have realized COVID was a crucible moment for me. And I think for a lot of folks, and fortunately or unfortunately, I think for a lot of folks, Iggy, COVID was a moment where people either figured a lot out about life, because as a mentor of mine would say, God sent us to our room for a little time out. And some folks used it to think and some folks used it to drink. So out of that, and spending time with the Lord and also thinking about what really mattered, that's actually where Educated Freedom came out of. At the time, I was running a college planning business and got into that purely and simply because previous to that, I was running a large national health insurance FMO, and the Affordable Care Act came along. And unfortunately, we passed it so we could read it, only to learn that it was actually the Unaffordable Care Act, right? But when that happened, my cheese didn't get moved. It kind of disappeared. So I built a college planning business, which was kind of a bleeding edge at the time, because I wanted a way to be able to make an impact on young men and young women that would allow them to get into, what their 3 to 5 unique capabilities are that the Lord's given them. So we did that well, but when COVID hit, the schools couldn't teach kids, much less maintain partnerships. And between that and some high school sports broadcasting we were doing, we just pretty much saw the handwriting on the wall. So took some time. We were going to rebrand and use socials. And then just in that discovery process, Iggy, of Educated Freedom, and a good friend that I met through that process, Culture, Career, and Cash Flow, a podcast that was going to be college planning related, college, cash flow and cat food turned into culture, career, and cash flow. And really, everything I'm about is really living out, in a sense, the parable of talents. Or God's gift to us is who we are, and are being on that pursuit to discover that. And what are those 3 to 5 unique capabilities, which is your career? And then cash flow is a label that really represents resources. It's your time, your talents, your skills, your impact, your influence. How do we do that in a way that it glorifies our Creator and the kingdom? And so just in that piece, I was doing some soul searching of who I really, really loved working with in the college planning space. And I just said, look, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I eat like an entrepreneur. I breathe like an entrepreneur. I play dead like an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
And that's just who I know and understand. And so that's why we only serve founders. I love and value the story and the risk and the things that founders put on the table to create, to innovate, to disrupt and make life better. You know, it doesn't matter what politician, government official, whatever, I'm going to tell you, I don't need any of them to agree that the entrepreneurial spirit and what entrepreneurs do, where they roll up their sleeves, they put in the sweat equity, like we have to be absolutely accountable for our results and our outcomes. And that's what makes America great, period.
Yeah, absolutely. For those who really have a hard time, and it's sad that we're in a place where when you say America is great, some people get triggered. But for me, I mean, I spent 8 years of my life in a village, and I know hundreds of thousands of people that they feel otherwise will be willing to pay them to trade places with what we have here. But I love the fact that you're really focused on honoring God with your business and how you go about running things, right? So is that one of those is that important for you, for the clients that you work with, that they have like strong spiritual foundation or a really good moral foundation at the very least? Like they may not necessarily need to be religious, but it's like their moral values and their code of ethics an important filter for you?
I would absolutely say that 100% of our clients are not, believers. But I would say absolutely unequivocally 100% of our clients have values and morals and treat people from a heart-centered space. We jokingly say we don't have a PETA tax. PETA stands for pain in the ass tax, right? Like if that's warranted, you're just not going to be a fit, because we can't be distracted by doing all of that. So it takes away from our ability to really be able to serve and take care of folks. The greatest emotional paycheck, which I think is the foundation or the rock bed for an entrepreneur, they have to have, especially a founder, an emotional thread that is that source of fuel and passion. And that is, and I'm literally formulating how I'm going to hopefully work with my father, who finances is like talking politics. He doesn't want to talk finance with me. And so, but the greatest issue that we have is founders who are going all in, but they don't know how to transition wealth through G3. Less than 3% of folks that create wealth, it's gone by the third generation. And it's not because there aren't people who can build trust and all those things. It's because nobody is teaching and leading the founders in how to create the value, the transferable value, skills, experiences, knowledge, because those are the foundational components, if you will, so that wealth in the impact and the leverage and influence is built on the rock, not built on sand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense. So what are like the biggest kind of common pitfalls that you find with founders when it comes to just wealth creation and in general?
Believe it or not, most entrepreneurs and business owners are liars.
Really? Elaborate.
They are, but they don't know that they are, and they're not doing that on purpose. So very simple example. It is very, very mind-blowingly common, and I stumbled upon this. We have this thing that we put in place for all of our clients called simple automated cash flow. And actually what we've learned by implementing that for clients is one of the reasons that really successful business owners are struggling in a bottleneck is actually they're not honest and they're not taking care of themselves. So for example, how many vendors do you think you could get away with if you told them, listen, like your office space, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay you or how much I'm going to be able to pay you, or I'll get around to it if there's some left over?
None.
Right. But you see, we are the key employee as a founder of our business. And so if we don't pay ourselves, then what's the communication we're giving those that we love, our wife, our spouse, our kids? They're saying, wait a second, so we understand that you're pursuing a dream and we support that. And we understand that you're making sacrifice so we can have a better tomorrow. But wait, are we even going to make it to tomorrow because you're not even paying us while you're paying everybody else? And so what we're saying and what we're doing, they're not aligned. And so simple automated cash flow allows you to have a stable personal financial foundation so that, man, when we go out to war every day fighting for that disruptive vision and passion, Iggy, we don't come home and get attacked from the side flank because our wife's frustrated because there's been something happen and she's worried about, can we financially sustain it or pay for it, right? So, that's the piece that I see when business owners get that rectified, when they get that right, and it's scary, right? And a lot of business owners have ADHD. And so the reason they suck at money is because money and numbers are boring. They're not exciting. And so people with ADHD, Iggy, they need to be stimulated and they need structure. It's why a lot of great athletes actually have ADHD, because they have a coach that whooped their tail and gave them great structure and discipline, and they're stimulated by competing, by winning, by getting knocked down, getting back up. Business owners a lot of times are very similar. And so, the thing like in athletics that makes you get up because you don't want to get hit in the mouth and then somebody go, oh, they quit, so you get back up, right? Well, in business, we want to avoid shame or not looking good, right? And so when numbers are boring, there's no stimulation, and we're going to be shamed, it's a double whammy. And so simple automated cash flow, for example, reduces the time that you have to spend doing something boring to 15 minutes or less. And when you know your numbers, we've eliminated the shame and all those things with it. And so what that does is it frees up and deletes all the cookies out of our head, kind of like our computer, and it frees us up to be better business owners, better fathers, spouses, leaders in the community, those types of things.
That makes a lot of sense. So can you break down, like, what is this simple automated cash flow? Is it like a tool that you use to kind of map out where your finances should go and how much you should be paying yourself? Can you unpack that a little bit for anyone who's listening and is intrigued by that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, we need to understand that willpower doesn't work. The environment works 24/7, 365. So most people, founders, entrepreneurs, W-2 workers, the reason they're losing the financial game is because they're counting on willpower. Let's just bring it home to something that's easy. You got kids, you're at the soccer field, baseball game. You've been there all weekend. You get in the car and you go, hey, we're not going to make your mom go home and cook now, so we're going to grab some Chick-fil-A or something, or where you want to go. And then the kids say something like, well, I don't care. But I'm pretty sure there's no restaurant called I don't care. Or maybe they say, well, I don't know, but I'm starving. And I don't think there's a restaurant called I'm starving either, Iggy.
Yeah.
Right? So you go back and forth through all of these things. But in those moments, we don't have willpower, okay? And so we just do the thing that's easiest. Well, that happens with finances as well. So what happens is you build the system being honest about what your habit is. So how do most folks manage their money? Most folks do it by what we call bank balance accounting. You pull up your phone, you open the bank app, you look, there's money in there. There's money in my bank, so there's a balance that I can use. So I'm going to account for I have enough money to go do what I want to do. And so
I love the analogies that you be throwing out, man. They're so good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah. So what we do is we basically build an environment that empowers you, that what you want and what you do are the same, versus shaming you and saying you ought to be doing this or that or the other. look, it doesn't matter what you should be doing. It matters what you're actually going to be able to do and sustain. So the system is set up where we use technology and we use a great banking relationship where you're not dealing with the Wells Fargo's. You actually have a human being that can serve you. And so you have a cell phone, and believe it or not, you don't get an 800 number. Like, that person answers on the other end of the phone if you have a problem. So banking is no longer a necessary evil. Imagine having a banking relationship where it's not fees and all kinds of headaches. You actually have somebody who's on your side and is an advocate. So it's all of these things where we basically build a system where we gamify the money. You know where your money's going and you're getting to win on a regular basis. So remember that ADHD that so many founders have? Well, what do they like to do? They like to be stimulated. Well, what's more stimulating than I'm kicking butt and taking names in the financial game, and it's only taking me 15 minutes. So that's how we ultimately set that up by and large.
Is that 15 minutes a day? Is that 15 minutes per week?
15 minutes a month, my friend.
15 minutes a month.
Yep.
Well, I mean, if somebody's listening and they're very, very intrigued by that, because we're going to discuss potentially giving the audience an assessment, do you have anything that gives them more information about that automated cash flow system?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have a great lead magnet on simple automated cash flow, transforming your personal finances in 15 minutes or less for business owners. Literally walks you through and breaks down exactly how we set that up. And we'll share a link in the show notes for everybody to pick that up. Or maybe you're just not sure what a family office is, or would you like to delegate that? Because since I suck at cars, I delegate that to somebody I know, like, and trust there, maybe the finances. So why would you hire somebody like us? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We're flat fee. And so we have no ulterior motive or motivation other than making you a happy client. So we hold all the other financial people on your team accountable. Curious what that looks like? We'll drop down in the notes a link to an assessment that in 5 minutes you can answer 24 questions and know exactly where you're at. And if you want to have a one-on-one, 20-minute chop it up session, we'll be happy to do that and make sure if we can help you, great, but more importantly, get you moving in the right direction. We want you to win.
Doing that. We're going to include that for those of you guys who are listening. It'll be somewhere in the show notes. And it'll also be we're going to attach it in several places. Show notes, email that you got to even get to this place, and in the description on YouTube. So there's really no excuse to being able to see it and find it and take advantage of it. Now, one of the things that we like to do when we're closing out is I want to ask you a couple questions, kind of rapid fire. One is like, what is the best advice that you've gotten, business, personal, financially, that you still hold dear to this day? What is the biggest lesson that you've learned this year so far?
I'm actually going to give you two. Number one, the greatest book there is the Bible, but it's only as good as the knowledge you take out of it. So if you'd like to get the knowledge, you actually have to read it. Probably a blinding flash of the obvious. I'm a big believer in delegation. That's not abdication, Iggy. So to delegate, we have to be clear on what it is that we want, or willing to work with somebody to get clear, right? And then we got to give them what they need to service. And then number two, we have to delegate, not micromanage because we don't understand or trust because we didn't put the time in on the front end, or abdicate and blindly trust. So we're good at 3 to 5 things. We need to do those 3 to 5 things that we're naturally, exceptionally capable and talented at. And we need to allow other folks in our community to serve us, because God's created us to do 3 to 5 things well and everybody else to do the same. And so if we are doing things that we're great at, but not exceptional at or good at, I see that as we're actually robbing other people from the opportunity to serve and to enrich our lives. And so as a community, as you know, or a village, regardless of the financial resources, is because people work together, not work divided, if you will. So that would be it. And then I think the greatest thing that I have learned this year is a concept I've gotten out of a men's accountability group that I'm developing, and we call it synchronicity. And synchronicity is simply this. It's 4 things. It's being present, it's being aware, it's being curious, and it's being open. Be where your feet are, Be aware of what's going on in yourself, but also other folks around you. When something happens that is like, wow, that's a coincidence, it's not. It's the Lord, and it's perfectly timed and calculated. So be curious about why you're seeing those things, and then be open as you interact with other things, why they're important. So an example is, I've been reading Never Split the Difference Again by Chris Voss. I've had multiple opportunities as I was present or aware of the application of that. And so now I'm curious, where are all the other places that knowledge that I had an opportunity to take advantage of that I'm going to be able to apply, so it becomes a part of who I am and my ability to transfer that.
Yeah. Andrew, it was good having you. Thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for dropping the awesome analogies and
you got it, man. My pleasure.
Like, makes it very easy to remember. So for those of you who are listening, if you want access to both the Simple Cash Flow Automator or system, there'll be a link to that in the show notes. If you want access to the assessment, just to kind of figure out where you are, what you need, and what makes the most sense for you based on like really meet you where you're at, there'll be a link to the assessment in the show notes as well. Andrew, thank you so much for jumping on. For you guys who are listening, like, subscribe, and comment. Till next time, stay calm, change lives, and have business on your terms.